Lyse Doucet, a BBC journalist, came to Brock to give a talk entitled Borders Without Boundaries, where she talks about her experiences covering conflicts in the Middle East. Afterwards, we asked her a few questions.
Well, I think you've just answered your question, because we now live in a world where we know so much about the world, and the borders that we now have that define us, sometimes divide us, are also borders with boundaries that are tumbling down. No one can say now they don't know what's happening, because we have Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, countless newspapers, new televisions, so many ways to find out what's happening in the world. And of course, we can't be interested in everything. But as Canadians in particular, where you cannot say the world is somewhere out there, the world is in Canada. The countries, you mentioned the Middle East. There are families who originated in the Middle East, who still have families in the Middle East, who are part of our society. They're our friends, they're our fellow students, they're part of our own families. We should know what's happening to them, because the future of their families and what's happening far away has an impact here. I mean, take something like Syria. Syria isn't just about Syria. Syria is now a brutal war, and it's drawing in foreign fighters from around the world, including Canada. There are Canadians who are fighting there. It's a war that involves all the major powers of the world. It's discussed at the United Nations. It is a war that will have an impact in the region and far beyond. And I think as responsible citizens in the 21st century, we can't just sit in our little corners. Of course, you can for part of the time. We can't always be looking out to the world, but I think it's just important as we live in our world to be very aware and to be engaged in a wider world as well. That's what it means to live where we are and who we are at this point in our time. News of the next 10 years will be exactly the same, but completely different. The days where we all sat in front of the television at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night and watched one network is over. We can choose the time we watch television, we can choose the paper we want to read, we can go online. We have a lot of choice. There's been a democratization of information. But what I say is, with our 24/7 information, with this endless, breathless timeline of tweets, with an endless stream of YouTube videos, that in all of these stories, that the storyteller still matters. And if there's a story I'm particularly interested in, I will go to a certain journalist I know, a certain network I know and trust, and find out how they tell the story, because the story and the storyteller still matter. I once was at a conference where someone from Moncton, which is a slightly bigger town that I grew up in, New Brunswick, put up her hand and said, "How did a girl from Bathurst get ahead at the BBC?" And I thought, what she's thinking, if a girl from Bathurst can get a job at the BBC, then a girl from Moncton definitely can get a job at the BBC. And what do I say to all young journalists? I say take risks, but take careful risks, take calculated risks. Build on the strengths you have, your knowledge of another part of the world, your knowledge of some part of your country. If you speak a certain language, if you're interested in a certain cause or a certain issue, build on it and take it and try as much as possible to get yourself published, to get yourself on air, and follow your dreams and don't give up. I think it's really important. When you're first starting out, the point is to start and not to end. Just keep going.